Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so if you've ever been fascinated by that sweet spot where education, cultural preservation, and smart business all kind of intersect, well, you're definitely in the right place. Today we're diving into how KwaMasi is totally transforming Zimbabwe's heritage curriculum. They're taking it from this dry, textbook theory and turning it into a highly profitable, lived experience. We're going to look at a program that doesn't just teach heritage, it literally turns it into a living, breathing ecosystem. Let's jump in.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll cover the educational disconnect, the big policy catalyst, the 3-year journey, the economic engine driving this, and finally, their traction and scaling plans.
All right, started with part 1, the educational disconnect, or really a systemic gap we're seeing right now. To understand the solution, we've got to understand the problem.
Right now, there is just this massive gap between theory and actual practice. Think about it like this. Currently, a grade 5 kid might be perfectly capable of defining concepts like Ubuntu or Unhu, which, by the way, is traditional community teamwork, straight out of a textbook. But here's the real problem. They've never actually lived that reality with elders out in the field. Heritage is being taught as a totally disconnected theory rather than a tangible, hands-on practice.
And you know what happens with heavily exam-driven systems, right? Test scores become absolutely everything, at the expense of building identity, life skills, or a sense of community responsibility. When field trips are just treated as shallow recreation rather than actual curriculum-linked journeys, the human impact is honestly severe. Traditions erode, oral histories just kind of fade away without intergenerational spaces, and ultimately, communities lose their cultural confidence.
Which brings us to part 2, the policy catalyst. A massive nationwide shift has officially changed the rules of the game.
So, the implementation of the mandatory 2024 to 2030 heritage-based curriculum means schools are now urgently scrambling. They need solutions to teach innovation, environment, and Ubuntu. And Minister Tuarai Moyo has made it crystal clear, this is not optional. Every single school has to figure out how to demonstrate these cultural and practical competencies to regulators and to parents.
So you've got this strict new policy mandate on one side, right? But on the other side, there's a massive system deficit. Schools simply do not have the physical heritage spaces, the indigenous practitioners, or the agroecology sites to actually teach this stuff, and that creates incredible market demand. KwaMasi was positioning itself squarely in the center of this completely uncontested market, providing a ready-built, turnkey solution for an education sector that is frankly unequipped.
Okay, part 3, the 3-year journey. How do you take a government mandate and turn it into a living classroom a 10-year-old actually cares about? Well, KwaMasi doesn't just do these random one-off trips. They offer a highly structured, experiential 3-year journey where learners actually return year after year. In grade 5, it's all about knowing who they are, exploring identity, indigenous games, traditional food. Then in grade 6, it scales up to heritage and responsibility, focusing heavily on teamwork and sustainable agriculture. Finally, by grade 7, it's about leadership, governance, and nation building. They're moving from simply knowing their identity to taking on true community leadership.
It's literally a progressive journey, almost like climbing a staircase, deepening those cultural roots over time. You go from a small seedling to a deeply rooted tree. But honestly, from a business perspective, this is genius. By structuring it this way, KwaMasi isn't just educating, they're simultaneously locking in 3 years of predictable, reoccurring institutional engagement from their partner schools.
And it's a whole ecosystem. This isn't just a school trip, it's a microeconomy. Actual elders and local artisans are brought in to transfer storytelling, crafts, and farming wisdom directly to the youth. The local community gets empowered through real employment, and the learners get a genuinely hands-on experience. It bridges that gap we talked about at the beginning perfectly, taking heritage from textbook theory and turning it into an immersive practice.
Moving on to part 4, the economic engine. Because let's be real, sustainability is absolutely key here. Great educational programs fail all the time due to unstable grants. But KwaMasi? Built on predictable, recurring revenue.
Okay, here's the magic number, $126,000. That is KwaMasi's annual baseline revenue. And no, this isn't some pie-in-the-sky projection. It's driven by highly scalable, very realistic unit economics. Let's look at how they get there.
Let's do the math real quick. It's actually pretty straightforward. You take a capacity of 50 learners per trip, price it at a very accessible $35 per learner, that generates $1,750 per trip. Run that at a frequency of 8 trips a month, and you're looking at $14,000 a month. Factor in a 9-month active school year seasonality, and boom, you have a highly predictable output funnel generating that $126,000 annual baseline. Over 5 years, that's a $630,000 baseline forecast, and that is before even touching secondary markets.
And the baseline is just the beginning. We're looking at a super healthy business with an EBITDA of over $45,000. But the real excitement? That lies in the 30% upside multipliers. Things like weekend camps, holiday programs, teacher workshops, merchandise, and ecotourism accommodation. These are all incredible additional revenue streams that leverage the exact same physical infrastructure they've already built for the schools. It's so smart.
Finally, Part 5, Traction and Scaling Up. Ideas are great, but execution is everything. Let's see how this is actually rolling out.
They've got a very clear 3-phase roadmap. Starting in the short term, they'll validate operations with up to 20 pilot trips between June and December of 2026. Then, medium term, by 2027, the model quickly expands to 50 to 70 trips annually, tapping into private and mission schools. And the long-term goal for 2028? Scaling up to establish a fully realized Leadership and Innovation Institute, unlocking university partnerships and eco-cultural tourism.
And look, this isn't just on paper. The milestones are already being hit. Land is secured. Physical infrastructure like the gazebo, solar power, a borehole, composting toilets, already built. They've got active crowdfunding and early-stage founder investment backing the whole thing. Plus, crucially, they have institutional backing. They're endorsed by the Provincial Office of the President and Cabinet. A pilot launch is 100% confirmed for June 2026, and they already have 4 schools committed.
But none of this works without the actual people. Driven by founder and lead Linda Gabriel, who's driving the vision and curriculum, the team has specialists in HR, legal, and finance. But the true engine of KwaMasi, the real heartbeat here, is the local women. The crafters, cooks, artists, and educators are the absolute backbone of this organization. This dual-purpose model creates sustainable rural livelihoods while making sure the learning environment stays totally authentic to the culture.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. If a single living classroom can solve a massive national education deficit, restore indigenous knowledge, empower local women, and simultaneously generate a sustainable profit, how else can we leverage our heritage to build the future? It's such a powerful model that proves preserving the past might just be the smartest investment we can make in tomorrow's leaders. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. See you next time.